Plan your day and stay safe. From KCRG TV9, this is First Alert Weather Now.
Good evening and welcome to the midweek edition of First Alert Weather Now. I'm meteorologist Thompson.
I'm meteorologist Rickman.
Yes, and we are watching a lot of showers and storms moving through eastern Iowa right now at this hour, likely to continue for at least a few more hours here.
Yeah, and it's really bringing us some much needed rainfall. Luckily, we haven't had a whole lot of severe weather either, so it really is kind of the best of both worlds. I mean, we're getting the rainfall we need, and it's making for a little bit of a dreary fall evening, but as dry as it's been, I'm sure a lot of folks are welcoming the rain. I know that I am.
Yeah, I think so, and it's falling at a rate that we can handle it for sure. It looks like tonight. Now we've got more rain coming too, which we'll get into in a little bit. And we have been watching some shifting fall trends as well.
Yes, indeed. We've seen a little bit of a change in our weather pattern. We're going to continue to see some changes to a more active weather pattern coming up this weekend. But first, we'll go ahead and jump into what you need to know for the short term, looking at the next 24 to 48 hours. So we are going to be dealing with, again, those showers and storms tonight. But the good news is that in time for Halloween, we will be seeing them move out. We're going to be a little bit cooler, but overall, weather's going to be pretty decent for folks going out trick-or-treating tomorrow night. And then, like I mentioned, we are going to see a more active weather pattern returning to eastern Iowa, so that does mean we have another rain chance as we head into this weekend. Right now, as we have a look outside of Fayette, it is dark, and you can look closely and see some of the rain there on the sidewalk. We're continuing to see those showers and storms work their way across eastern Iowa. Temperatures right now are in the 50s and 60s. Dubuque is your warm spot there. It's 64. And again, here's a look at all of that rain that's working its way across the area. In our northern zone, Fayette and Olwine, Elkader are getting just a good, steady rain. We do see more of that in our central zone. Maquoketa is just about to get in on some of that. And then in our southern zone, a little bit of a heavier storm currently working its way into Washington County. But through the rest of the night, we are going to see those showers and storms continue. They'll start to taper off by the time we get to early tomorrow morning, and then we'll see dropping temperatures through the day tomorrow, and then the continuation of that drying trend by Halloween night.
The good news is that drying trend is coming just in time, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. There's obviously Halloween to look forward to tomorrow, and if you're going to get rain, better now than 24 hours from now.
That's true, although there is a little bit of rain coming this weekend too, and I'm sure that's going to show up here on meteorologist Joe Winter's forecast for fun.
October's winding down, the weather's more active, so as you make some plans, certainly remember to take a look at your forecast for fun. As far as the leaves, we are now past peak in many locations. If you're still looking for some peak color, you're going to have to head to the south. There are isolated trees that look real nice, but head down toward Mount Pleasant yet for some nice color if you can get some dry weather. We've had some beautiful photos posted through the UNews app on KCRG.com. This is one from Ann in Knoll Ridge Park. Earlier, of course, some beautiful color before those leaves have fallen down. Has some fall activities for tomorrow. It is going to be, again, a rather windy day. Temperatures will be cool as well. 50s at 6 a.m., then in the 40s as we head through the afternoon. Haunted houses still going on, and we are looking at tonight's haunted houses featuring some showers and storms. 50s as we head into Friday, 57 Thursday, and 55 degrees on Friday. Trick-or-treat times in eastern Iowa, a full list on KCRG.com, but anytime on Halloween in Cedar Rapids, 5:30 to 7:30 in Dubuque, 5:30 to 8 o'clock in Iowa City, and 6 to 8 o'clock in Waterloo. The good news is for trick-or-treaters throughout eastern Iowa, the weather looks quiet, but it does look chilly. Temperatures will likely be in the mid to upper 40s, partly cloudy skies, and a few breezes, so maybe a light jacket will be good with the costume. Rain still in the football forecast, both for Iowa City as well as Ames. 2:30 kickoff in Ames with Texas Tech in town, Wisconsin in town to take on Iowa. That's a 6:30 kickoff on Saturday night. That's today's look at our forecast for fun.
Now, your First Alert forecast with meteorologist Thompson.
Plenty of rain out there this evening. Our Coralville City Cam shows a similar picture. It is a little bit windy there too, and cloudy skies all around to go with all of that. Now, not everyone is seeing the heaviest rain at this moment, but there is more on the way for those spots that aren't. Temperatures around 57 in Coralville, 59 in Cedar Rapids. Dubuque still at 64 though. There is a cold front associated with all of this. Those behind it are seeing those winds coming from a northerly direction like Waterloo and Cedar Rapids. Those in front of it still coming from the south. But it's along that front where we've seen those showers and storms be most likely. Your First Alert highlights that potential. A couple of those still possibly strong over the next several hours, but then that chance both diminishes in terms of how much we'll see and the potential strength of them too. But the winds stick with us. Pretty breezy overnight, potentially a little bit gustier during the afternoon tomorrow. Then it begin to taper a little bit toward tomorrow evening. Now, a severe thunderstorm watch still in effect for these highlighted counties, Poweshiek, Mahaska, and Wapello until 7 o'clock technically. It looks like that's probably going to be allowed to expire. We're not necessarily expecting this to be moved any farther east at this point, just based on the environment we have. That cold front really starting to move through a good portion of the area. Once you're behind it, that severe weather risk really does diminish quite a bit. But here's that broad area of rain and storms. Don't have the lightning on here. It has reduced a little bit over the last hour or two, but still some lightning strikes up here in the tri-state area and in this cluster of storms down south. We'll pinpoint our northern zones first, though. You can see some moderate rainfall at the very least, a little bit more scattered in nature here in our northwest zone for the time being, but still very heavy rain falling down toward the Dubuque area in particular, some individual storm cells down there. We've been watching this line of storms that's been tracking near the Ottumwa area and through Oskaloosa. It's had this most strength of the storms we've seen so far this evening. Some attempt to organize into something that could turn severe. So far, so good, though. Maybe a little bit of gusty wind as it moves into the Washington area in the next little while. Iowa City, you're also in line to get more of this moderate rainfall here coming up in just a bit. Off to our southwest, there's more. Line of storms about to approach the Interstate 35 corridor in southern Iowa, too. These currently not severe. There are some severe thunderstorm warnings in western Missouri, closer to a source of more energy for those storms to really get strong. But we're keeping an eye on it over the next few hours. Pinpoint Futurecast shows the continued eastward progression taking its time. That second line will still be with us through the nighttime hours, so we're expecting a fairly wet stretch here through about midnight. That's when things start to shift a little bit farther east. Still some rain here at 1 o'clock across parts of the area. Later tonight, we could see some additional isolated showers, maybe a storm develop by tomorrow morning, but even those will be fairly limited as they move through. Instead, just cloudier skies as we go toward the afternoon hours tomorrow. We saw that little area of snow potentially in north central Iowa. Yeah, a few flurries could fall just outside of our northwest zone. Now, luckily, by tomorrow evening, clouds will diminish a little bit. Winds, you notice those arrows getting slower on your screen. We should also see those diminish a little bit too. So your first alert forecast overnight, 55 in Fayette, 65 in Washington. That's about where we'll be when we start the day on Thursday. So we're not expecting a big drop, kind of holding steady underneath rain and storms. By tomorrow afternoon, here's where our temperatures will be. 46 in Decorah, 51 in Iowa City. So it will be chillier by the time you leave work or school on your Thursday compared to where we started. Now, in terms of our Halloween forecast, we sure do have that chance to see some cooler conditions during the evening. Temperatures down to the 40s, but as winds get a little bit lighter, that will make things a little bit better. So later trick-or-treaters may be in somewhat better shape in that case. Partly cloudy is how we'll characterize it, although it looks like generally trending toward clearer skies during that time. Now, your 9-day involves temperatures that stay closer to normal for this time of year. I'm talking 50s largely, although a few 60s out there too. Chances for rain return this weekend into early next week. By the time things are all said and done with these two areas of storms, we're talking about some pretty substantial rainfall. I'll show you that in the next 9 coming up in just a little bit.
Absolutely, and overall it is very nice to finally see that change from very warm and very dry to a little bit cooler, still above average but cooler, and then a wetter weather pattern as well. It's very refreshing.
Yeah, there's plenty of weather for fall weather fans to enjoy. I think tomorrow probably a little brisk, probably, especially considering how we've been spoiled lately with warmth. But Friday looks like a nice one, sunny, a little bit less windy too.
It is. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be seasonable. And speaking of seasonable changes of the season that we've had, we've seen some milestones so far, our first frost and our first freeze, but there are still some other milestones we're going to reach during the fall season before we do finally fully transition into winter. So for this week's Climate Close-Up, I had a look at some of those milestones that we have to look forward to. For this week's Climate Close-Up, we're going to have a little bit of a mid-season check-in. We're getting about halfway into the fall season, and with that, we've got several milestones that have come and gone and several more that we are expecting to come and go. So for this week's Climate Close-Up, we'll have an in-depth look at where we've come from so far into the fall season and where we're headed as we continue to transition into winter. So as we have a look at those milestones that we typically see, our first frost usually happens around October 8th, and this year we did get that around October 15th, which was a few days late, but overall not too far behind schedule. And then right with it, we had our first freeze the next day. Typically we see it October 20th. We had it October 16th, a few days early. So overall, our first frost and freeze on average did come relatively close to where we would expect them to arrive. And typically by now we've seen our first high in the 40s. That would have happened October 19th on average, but we're still waiting on that. It's been very warm this fall, and I'm sure lots of you folks out there have felt just how warm we've continued to feel those temperatures be. Summer has been very slow to leave. After we get that first high in the 40s, we're going to see those first flurries that typically arrive towards the end of November. And then by the time we get to the start of December, we typically see that first snowfall. So we'll be waiting for those to arrive, as well as that first high in the 40s. But with as warm as we've been this fall, we might have to continue to wait for a little while. Typically, our average temperature through the month of September and then into the later part of October is about 57.6 degrees. Now this year, again, it's been very warm out there, and summer's been slow to go. So for that reason, we've been a good bit above average. Those high temperatures are running about 5 degrees warmer than normal. 62.8 was our average temperature this year during the month of September and then into the later part of October. And of course, with that warm weather, it's been very dry as well. We've seen drought work its way back into much of eastern Iowa. Some of our northern areas are seeing a severe drought working its way in. And of course, during the summer, we were several inches ahead on rainfall for the year, thanks to a good bit of a very wet spring and a wet first half of the summer. But it's been so dry for the last several months that a lot of areas are starting to fall behind on rainfall, and unfortunately we're going to have to continue to fight to get this drought cleared up again, and we're going to have to hope for some more rainfall in the coming days and weeks. We are getting into a time of year, though, where things are starting to dry up as we get into September. During the month of September, we typically see about 3.5 inches of rain, but that dips down to below 3 inches on average for October, and then we continue to see less and less rainfall on average as we get into November and December. So we will continue to hope for some more rainfall, some cooler temperatures as well. Normally, we're starting to see those temperatures fall. Highs towards the end of October and start of November are usually in the upper 50s for highs and then mid to upper 30s for lows. But of course, it has been very warm for the last several weeks, and we'll continue to see those average temperatures fall. We'll have to wait and see if if our actual observed temperatures fall with it. So as we continue on into the month of fall and then to the month of winter, we'll have a look at how we're doing with other things in terms related to climate. But until then, we'll just have to hope for some cooler and some wetter weather to bring us back closer to average.
Cooler and wetter, you say? Well, we have some of that on the way. We have opportunities for showers as we head toward the weekend again. Again, tomorrow, dry. Halloween will be chilly for sure, especially as we head toward the evening in the 40s. But Friday looks pretty decent. First day of November, this is about what you would want or expect. Lows in the 30s or upper 20s, highs in the low to mid 50s by the afternoon, lighter winds. That will be a nice change of pace. Winds stay fairly light on Saturday, but that's when that chance for some showers gets involved. But notice we start here at midnight on Pinpoint Futurecast. Initially, relatively clearer skies. Some clouds build during the morning into the afternoon, and then it's later in the afternoon and evening when those showers actually arrive. So a good portion of Saturday actually looks to be in pretty good shape. Now, if you want the rest of the weekend to be dry, I've got some unfortunate news. It does look like we're going to keep things wetter then, and that lasts into Monday and even portions of Tuesday, although some indications may point toward Tuesday trending a little drier. We're going to keep a close eye on that. Of course, Election Day is kind of a big deal for a lot of folks, and so better weather is always better news for folks trying to hit the polls. In terms of total rainfall amounts, a lot. We're talking amounts by the end of the next 7 days. It takes us all the way through Tuesday, perhaps in that 3 to 5 inch range, depending on exactly how much of this thunderstorm activity you get in any given location. So that is certainly substantial. We'll be watching that closely. I don't think we're going to run into any water issues related to that in terms of rivers or even streams in most of the area, but it's just something to keep in mind, which we haven't had to keep in mind for some time. Let's recap where we are tonight, though. Showers and storms moving through. There is a good chunk of rain moving northeast. Generally, individual storms within this area are moving northeast, kind of gradually moving to the east overall. The heaviest now down toward the Washington area, where they're probably about to see some pretty good rainfall. I would estimate here within the next few minutes. If you live in Washington, expect that, perhaps with a gust of wind. Let's actually see if we can pull up the Washington city cam real quick. Take a look where we look like down there. Well, it's dark, folks. Yeah, that's where we stand. I should have known that, huh, AJ?
Well, I mean, I was looking forward to seeing it too. But I mean, we do have our answer now. It's dark. If you look closely, I can't tell if there's water on the road.
There is, but it's not. I don't think the heavy downpours are quite to the city yet, it looks like. So you got a few minutes before a little bit of a downburst of rain there. Maybe a little bit of gusty wind too, but no immediate signs of overly severe weather, which is good. That's what we want to see, as we discussed earlier. Let's keep it Rain and storms, but nothing too strong.
Yes, absolutely. And kind of to your point that you mentioned, the great thing with all this rain we're getting over the next couple of days, yes, we could get 3, 4, 5 inches in some spots, but it's spaced out over a long period of time, so it's not going to all hit at once, rush down the rivers, flood everything, and then it gives us very little more problems than benefits. It'll be spaced out. The ground will soak it up over a period of time. It's going to be really, really good for the drought. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the drought monitor over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's for sure. And like you said, we just have not been cold enough. The ground is not nearly anywhere close to frozen. So it'll have plenty of opportunity to soak in. It's almost perhaps the right timing too. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hope you stay safe, stay dry, avoid those storms tonight. We'll be back here again tomorrow night, same time. Have a great night.